Hey everyone, Model Man Frank here. How y'all doing? I am live a minute and 30 seconds early. I just couldn't wait. I really wanted to talk to y'all. Had a nice weekend. Hope everybody had a good weekend themselves. And I just figured I'd go a little early today. So we are live, and I know I said I was gonna do the seaplane round two, like the vision says there. We'll talk a little bit about seaplanes. I'm just a little melancholy. I mean, I'm tired. You know, I had a long weekend. Had some family come to visit me. This week I'm celebrating my 50th birthday, and my wife and I are celebrating our anniversary. That's tomorrow. And my son today's birthday was 30th birthday. Happy birthday to him. And it's just, kind of like very melancholy. And I was pretty tired. And I took a nap and woke up and realized, oh my gosh, I forgot to do a little research and put some stuff out there. But I wasn't able to. So I'm going to go off the cuff a little bit in terms of talking about airplanes today. Yeah, I said I was going to talk about seaplanes, try and make up for what we missed last time. But you know what? We'll do the seaplane conversation next time, more in depth. And after I've sat down for a while and really got into it, if you guys saw, I think I posted a picture of the step that we had talked about on seaplanes. When the seaplane boats are put together and stuff like that, they have like a little step, and that actually creates a vacuum. So it goes along and then it steps up and then continues back. Well, that little step on those seaplanes actually creates a vacuum. It helps the aircraft lift up off the water. That was actually created in the world and back in when seaplanes were designed, just to kind of give you guys a heads up. It's kind of interesting how seaplanes came about, because what happened was when aviation was in infancy, there were no runways. They were mostly like fields, and like there was really not a real runway like the runways we know today, which are paved or grass strips. There were no airports. It was new. So what they decided to do was make airplanes land in the water, because there were lakes and there were oceans, and in order to fly across the world, you could land anywhere on the water. So that's why seaplanes came about. I know I said that we're going to talk too much about it, but I'm just going to go kind of slowly into it, and we'll talk a little bit about it. Little bit of news just to let you also know, besides my birthday and anniversaries and all that sort of stuff. If you go over, now is a perfect time to join Patreon. I am using my Patreon page to post more, and you can have conversations with me. It is free to join, guys. If you go over there and you follow Patreon, you will be able to see a video that I posted up. When I did my Bay of Pigs invasion talk about the Bay of Pigs, I had showed you guys a little bit of video of my father speaking about he living through that moment in history and time in the 1960s when Fidel Castro took over Cuba and came down from the hills as a warrior and a savior to all. Well, he really wasn't. We all know that. It took me a while to go through it and add photos and do all the editing, and then to take that video that I had edited completely. Now, see what it is when I'm shooting video, I shoot video on my iPhone. And I shoot it on my GoPro. So when I do the downloads, I put everything on my iPhone, and then I have a copy software, a software that helps me cut and paste and put everything together, and then transferring it over into the phone. I have to download it and copy it, and then download it into YouTube or download it onto Patreon. So it takes a while, you know. Cutting videos, I don't know if you guys watch a lot of the videos online today. You know, there's all sorts of different videos out there that you can watch and things like that. And, you know, these guys put out videos once a week. Some guys even put videos out every single day. I can't do that. You know, I've got a life. I got to do other things, you know, pay the bills, things like that. So you'll never, you know, if you do see videos that I post out, stuff that I find, you know, surfing the web, and, you know, some stuff that you guys would really like to see. But I don't, you're not going to see me here in Shop Talk doing every single day. I just can't do it. So, you know, we do this. Hold on one moment. Juanita. Sorry about that, guys. So, you know, we do this. If we're going, there's a lot of guys that do this on a daily basis. I just can't. So, you know, I gotta take a break. I got a family, you know. So every Sunday night you'll see me here at 7:30. You know, unless I put it out that I can't, what I'll do is I'll do a video, and then I'll put it out and premiere it at 7:30 so you guys can watch it. But and explain why I wasn't able to come on. But so getting back to it, I don't know where I was going on that tangent, but so yeah. Oh, the video on Patreon. If you go over to Patreon, and you can see it right here, Patreon, Model Man Frank. Follow me there. Let me make that video, that card, place card, a little bigger so you can see it. And if you follow me there, just go on, sign up. It's free. You're not going to be charged for it. I have put it for my members to be able to watch the video. It's a link. It'll follow you over to YouTube, and if you follow that link, you'll be able to see it on YouTube, the video. Patreon members are getting to see this kind of documentary that I made. It's like it's not a pure documentary like you would see on National Geographic. It's something that I put together with my father, and the history of what our family went through during that period of time. And I think you guys would really get a kick out of it. I really also did it not only for that, but it's a piece of history that needs to be shared, and not a lot of families really share it. There's so little that is known about what happened during that time period. I wish I could go more in depth. There is going to be more, I'll have more discussions more about that period of time, but when it comes to conversations about historical events like that, I may actually end up doing it on Rumble and on the Patreon channel, more so than here on YouTube, because YouTube has these algorithms that they're just like, you can't say certain words, and you know they'll demonetize it. I was watching a video from Mindseed TV, which is a guy in Miami, and he gets demonetized for saying words that we use every day to talk about. And I mean, it's kind of stupid, you know. So Rumble is allowing the public to be free in our free speech there. And I'm trying to figure out how to use OSM, this OBS software that I use, to bring you these live chats and to be able to go live on Rumble at the same time. I may have to end up doing it on my other computer that I have here and basically have it back and forth and then split it. I don't know how that's going to happen, but that's in the future. And for right now, I'm still doing it here and then broadcasting and then downloading my conversations and putting them on Rumble, or like this video, putting it on Patreon so you, the viewer, who signs onto Patreon can see it firsthand before I make it go live. So I really implore you to go over to Patreon, sign up. Again, it's free of charge. If you become a Patreon member, I really do appreciate it. Sometimes there are some things there that you have to pay for. It is a $5. If you do want to become a member, it's $5 once a month, and it helps me out. You know, so I can bring stuff to you guys, and, you know, I do this out of the things that I like to do, and it helps me out in the long run. Seaplanes wise, we were going to talk about seaplanes. I got a video to show you guys and some photos to show you guys in terms of the seaplanes. Now, like I was saying, seaplanes came out in a time period. So the Wright Flyer was the first plane to fly in the U.S. The French were the first ones to fly, and probably before that there were other people. But the Wright brothers did a great job on, you know, press and everything like that, and making it look like they were the first ones in the air. Not necessarily. There were other people in the air before them. So in the U.S., they were the real first ones to have powered flight. Aircraft that were used in water was a lot easier to use than a land-based aircraft, because you could land on water and water was everywhere. You had lakes, you had rivers, you had oceans, you had bays. Excuse me. Pardon me. So you had a multi-mediums of different places you could land. So in terms of landing places, you could just land really anywhere. I'm actually going to show you guys a video here that I found on the internet of a seaplane base. Now, it was really interesting to watch how the planes were landing and so on and so forth. And I thought maybe you guys would get a kick out of seeing some of these planes. Now, the one that I'm going to show you first here is just a bunch of different seaplanes taking flight and taking off, and you'll actually see how they do it. They kind of do it in steps. So we're going to do that one first. So let me show you this one here. And we'll do that one. So as you can see how some of the planes now, the one that you saw was an Otter. Here you're seeing a Cessna. They kind of, if you see the pontoons, if you look at the pontoons, the way they're taking off, they kind of have these steps on them. And that actually creates a vacuum effect that actually allows the plane to step up and be able to release that. Because water sucks you in. It sucks that aircraft into the water and doesn't really allow it. So as the aircraft builds up speed, not only are you creating lift, but you're going up into the air. The suction comes off that step process. So that's why you see those pontoons like that. There's one in the background there coming in. There's one coming in the background there for a landing. So pretty cool video, huh? It's kind of interesting to see how that really works out and such. Another one that I wanted to show you here was the Grumman Goose, and Grumman Gooses were so the Grumman Iron Works not only built great fighter planes, but they built seaplanes after the war and during the war. They did a lot of cool looking airplanes. And the Grumman Goose was one aircraft in particular I think is really cool. All their seaplanes the Grumman ever built were really neat, and they were purposeful, you know. Um, they fit a purpose really well. Um, they built most of their seaplanes were built for the military. Now, the one that I show you is a Grumman Goose. I have it posted here as a Widgeon, but it's not a Widgeon. It is a Grumman Goose. The Widgeon had inline engines or horizontally opposed engines, the very first ones that came out. It was a little underpowered. Then people started putting 6 cylinders on them and made them a little bit more powerful in terms. So here's a Grumman, a Widgeon. So as you can tell, that was pretty cool to watch also. Um, the Widgeon was a smaller version of that aircraft, and then there was the Goose, which was that aircraft, which was a little bit bigger. It was a bigger plane. And then after that one would be the Mallard, which was a little bit bigger aircraft. Famously, Chalk's Ocean Airways used the Mallards to go from Miami Watson Island, which was in the ocean base, to Bimini and the Bahamas, and they were actually officially known as the one of the oldest airlines or regional carriers at the time, next to Pan Am, which was another airline that famously used, along with British Overseas Airways and Lufthansa, also used seaplanes to get around before the outbreak of World War II. Outbreak of World War II started not in '39, but in the years before, which was probably I think 1937 is where starts of outbreaks of the war already had started. Probably even sooner than that, there were conflicts going on. My history is not really with me right now, so I'm not too sure on that. So you had a lot of cool things as you could saw with those planes. There's companies around the world. So after the war, there were a lot of runways around. So everybody was like, "Hey, we don't need seaplanes anymore. We got all these land-based bombers and land-based troop carriers. We turn them into airliners, and we don't need seaplanes to carry people around anymore. We're going to start using land-based aircraft." So land-based aircraft started, but seaplanes still came in their own right because people still wanted to have recreation, to be able to go to their cabins and things like that. So you had like Piper Cubs, and then you had Super Cruisers and Cessnas and a lot of different commercial aircraft that kind of like broke into that market. The commercial market, general aviation market, got into the seaplane race also. The military was still using them. You still had companies like Martin, which is now part of Lockheed, which is Lockheed Martin. You still had Consolidated PBY, famously, was still being used. Actually, was phased out pretty quickly. But Martin and Grumman and that's really about it. Boeing didn't have any more seaplanes. They really went into full production on land-based aircraft. Grumman's aircraft, the Grumman Mallard and the Grumman Albatross, which was the biggest of the seaplanes that Grumman built, really took off. The seaplane for them was for the Coast Guard, which was the large Albatross. It was used heavily for the U.S. Air Force as a search and rescue aircraft for any downed pilots, anybody that got downed, during Vietnam or during Korea. And a lot of the planes were also used in the uh, in the uh, Vietnam War. For transcontinental, they were used in the Pacific. The great thing about the Albatross was that the aircraft had a very large. It looked like a beefy boat. There's a picture of it right there. You had the radar nose in the front, and then if you just look at it, it looks like a beefy plane. It can take a lot of punishment. It could take off in 10-foot swells. So it could even take off in heavy waves. It was really built strongly. We have one of these at the airport. I took some pictures of it. I'll try and post them on the community page and on Patreon. I'll put a little collage on Patreon. You can see the whole collage there. You'll be able to see a link to the actual collage on Patreon, to the community page here on YouTube. And the aircraft was built really beefy. You could land. It was an amphibian, so you could land on the water, or you can land on the road, on the runway, not the road. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say the road. That was stupid of me to say that. It was a mistake. Had pontoons, extended fuel range. It was just a really big, beefy plane. Now, Martin decided during the 50s to get into the race of building an aircraft that could carry a nuclear bomb. They were interested in helping the Navy stay in the nuclear race. So Martin developed an aircraft, a jet-powered seaplane. Now, many of you that follow aviation history, you know which aircraft I'm talking about right now. I know you do out there. All of you that are watching this channel, you probably know what the next plane I'm going to show you. And if you don't, I'll tell you which aircraft it is. Do you know the name of this plane? I do. Yes, it is the Martin Seamaster P6M Seamaster. The XP6M made its first flight from Chesapeake Bay on the 14th of July, 1955. There you see it painted up in the colors dark blue. Now, if you look at the bottom, right where the Navy emblem is, it looks like a little door on there. If you see it really big, maybe see if I can get it bigger. So you see that that's not a speed brake. That's how the airplane would turn in the water. It's a rudder. So basically, if the aircraft wanted to make a turn, you would put more thrust. Let's say you were going to make a right turn. On the left motor, you would give it a little bit more thrust, and then you would put the rudder full to the right to make the right-hand turn, and also that little door would come out and help the aircraft maneuver into the direction you needed to go. So it gave excellent tracking in the water. So the plane flew very well. The pilots that test flew the aircraft really liked the aircraft a lot. It was a well-liked aircraft. Really, really well-liked. There's some videos out there. Discovery Wings I believe Discovery Wings did a video on it. Discovery used to have a program called Discovery Wings, and you'd be able to watch it. And they showed this aircraft off. They talked about it. Also, the PBM Mariner was another aircraft. It was a gull-winged aircraft with a twin tail boom, and you also had the Martin Marlin. The Martin Marlin came out right after the war also. It flew for a while. It was a twin engine aircraft. So was the Mariner. As a matter of fact, the Marlin, um, the Japanese used the kind of same design for their Chinois, which was their Japanese aircraft. So yeah, it was a really cool plane. This aircraft. I wish we had. I wish there was one around saved, and there would have been something to look at in a museum because there are none left in museums, which is sad. So it's kind of sad that that aircraft there's not even you can only see them in model form, or if somebody decides to build one in a RC version. I don't know if there's an RC version of this aircraft around. Who knows? But if you want to build seaplanes in balls of wood form or in foam board, there's a lot of different ways to do so. You can take them off from lakes. AMA, there's a lot of clubs out there that have that are out there that have lakes available for you to be able to fly from your model airplane group. If you join AMA, which is American Modelers Association or American Model Hobby, AMA, just go to AMA and you'll be able to follow them there. And you can follow them and join. I'm sorry. If you join them, again, I'm a little tired. Sorry about that. Join them. Become an AMA member. You can build some model airplanes and start flying them like I do. And be able to see them. So, but that's really much as much as I can talk about. Things happening in the news in terms of you know what you know what's kind of funny is that the Chinese, actually the Russians are still building. They built a jet plane, seaplane, to be able to use on lakes and to fight fires. And the Canadair also built theirs to fight fires. So seaplanes still are used in that aspect also. But you know that's really all about it that I can talk to you guys about seaplanes. Again, I'm really sorry that my head is not really into it tonight to talk about the the uh, the seaplane saga of aircraft. I think I got one more photo I can show you guys here. Let's see if I got that one. Oh, here's the Russian the. Let me show you this one here. Oh, this one's a really good one. I want to show you guys this one. So I was talking about the Seamaster. How did the Seamaster come out of the water? You probably want to know, right? So there was a cradle that was designed for the Seamaster. So as the Seamaster came up, there'd be this thing floating in the water, and there would be a guy on it. And the aircraft could cradle itself and use that cradle to come up out of the water. Isn't that cool? That is just really, really cool. And you know why this aircraft never survived? They broke them all up, which is super sad. What a great looking plane. All because the U.S. Air Force did not want the Navy to be the exclusive carrier of nuclear ordnance. They wanted the Air Force to take care of that. And it was just a bunch of guys arguing over who was going to be able to basically be able to kill everybody in the world. Because that's really, if you think about it, that's what nuclear weapons are. You know, if you guys want to argue against that with me, that's fine. You know, be offended. But This plane would have been, I don't know where exactly. I think the bomb bay would have been in the water. Would be under where that cradle is, so the bomb bay would actually come out. I don't know how they were going to design the bomb bay for that. I don't think they really got that far to really think ahead. If you guys know, put it in the description, in the comment field down below, if you guys have more information on that. But this aircraft was supposed to be nuclear capable of taking a nuclear bomb. So, I got another one to show you guys. I think you guys would really get a kick out. So, Consolidated built an aircraft called the Coronado. And here is a photo of that aircraft. I believe this is in Pearl Harbor, if I'm not mistaken, where that aircraft is being viewed. This is a static display aircraft. I'm not exactly sure. Don't quote me on it, but I do believe that is in. That's a Consolidated aircraft. That was built by Consolidated, and I do have a little bit of information on that aircraft. Let me find it for y'all. I got my big book of aviation next to me here, so I will give you that info as soon as I can. So yeah, that aircraft right there is called the PB2Y Coronado. It's called the Model 29. It flew during World War II, and shortly thereafter it did fly a little bit in Korea, but it didn't really survive anymore after that. It was a pure seaplane. It was not amphibious. The reason you see a landing gear on it is that those were the beaching gears that allowed it to come up out of the water. Those aircraft were mostly towed. They didn't really use their own power to get out of the water. So a tug would actually pull them up out of the water, and that's how you got in and out of the water itself. It's a pretty big bird. It's actually a double-decker style aircraft. It would have been great if that plane was used as a seaplane to ferry passengers. It was used to ferry, military personnel around to different islands. But most of the islands after the war, almost every island after the war, especially in the Pacific, had a runway in it. So the plane basically became obsolete. So the ones that did survive after the war went to museums or, were used as firefighting aircraft like this one, and then like the Martin Mars. If you guys are big followers of the aviation community like I am, you'll see that Martin Mars, the big Martin aircraft, one of the largest seaplanes ever built, next to the Hughes Spruce Goose, just retired, had its final flight, and is now going to be on permanent display in a Canadian Air Museum. Martin built those aircraft. I think I have a photo of it here if you guys have never seen one before. Let me get rid of this one here. And let me see if I have a photo. If not, there is a video, a lot of video out there of its final flight. If you go over to actually, if you follow me, you'll be able to see a final flight of it. I do have a video coming out about it soon. Let's see if I have a photo of that plane. No, unfortunately, I don't have a photo. I do have a photo here that I can share with you. This is the Japanese. Now, Japan got into the seaplane. They were very famous. Their coastline is huge. Okay. And during the war, they had a lot of seaplanes. Now, they have a coastal force that they need to be able to watch their coastline. This is the Chinois. The Chinois is a seaplane that is built by Japan, and it is used in their military and their seafood. They actually just retired this aircraft. I think there's only like one or two of them that are still flying. But this plane is. They had a couple of them flying for a while. Don't have the specs on this plane as specifically as right now. But I will do a video, a little bit more intense video on this aircraft and on Japanese seaplane use and aviation use of this aircraft. I think this is a really cool plane. And Japan did a great job on building such. If you look at it, it does look a little bit like the Martin Marlin. If you guys don't know what the Martin Marlin looks like, let me see if I have a photo here. I think I downloaded one. Like I said, this weekend I didn't have very much time to do the research that I needed to do for this program. Again, I'm really sorry. No, I don't have a photo of the Martin Marlin. Martin Marlin does look a little bit like this plane. The only difference is the Martin Marlin has a gull wing for their airplane. Now, the one that I'm going to show you now is the Chinese version of this aircraft. The Chinese basically copied. Would I say copy? Yeah, I think I would say copy. That's a Chinese version of the Martin of the Chinois, because China has a very small little coastline. It's not as big, not like Japan, which needs to be able to watch their entire coastline. But yeah, the Chinese wanted one, so they built one. They use it for search and rescue. They use it for propaganda purposes, and they also use it for fighting fires, supposedly. I don't know too much about this plane. If anybody knows about it, if you could share a link in the description box. If it's from Wikipedia, Wikipedia probably knows more about it than I do. I just learned about it. I knew they've had it for a while. It used to be in a couple of magazines, but there wasn't much out there in terms of information about the plane itself. So like I said, I tried compilating as much as I could about these planes as possible. One plane in particular that is very, very, it's actually been in movies too, is the Grumman Duck. I didn't talk about that before. If you don't know about the Grumman Duck, it was a biplane with a radial engine, just like all the other Grumman seaplanes that were used, except the Widgeon, of course. The Grumman Duck, actually, the one that I'm going to show you, has the paint scheme for rescue for the Air Force. There were some that were used before they were quickly removed. I don't know if they flew that for very long, but one of these actually sank with the Arizona, and I think it wasn't even saved. It was just basically lost. It got into when the Arizona sank, the aircraft got damaged. It used to sit on the front turret of, I think it was turret number 2 for a while, and then when the attack happened, they lost the aircraft. Now, the Grumman Duck, as you can tell, it's biplane. Weeks Air Museum has a Grumman Duck, and I believe theirs is the one, I think it's this aircraft here specifically. If you ever watch Murphy's War with, I believe it's Donald Sutherland, if I'm correct, you can find Murphy's War online. No, it's not Donald Sutherland. I'm so sorry. I can't remember who was on that who was that in the movie. But yeah, if you watch Murphy's War, look it up, you'll actually see a Grumman duck on that aircraft of that plane. The Grumman duck was known as a. Oh my gosh, I don't have a photo of this aircraft. The book that I have with me does not have a Grumman duck in here. I'm very upset. I don't know why they want to put it in here, but they. Oh, yeah, here they are. So the J2F duck, which is this aircraft right here. Most of the ducks remained in service throughout the war and operated from both carriers and land bases in a variety of roles, including patrol, photo survey, rescue, and target towing. Some were actually many of them were lost during the during the battle Pearl Harbor during this, because they were kept on board ships. It was known as the duck because of that bill that was in the front of it, that duck bill pontoon. So that's really why the Grumman duck designation came from, because of that duck bill. The one at Fantasy Flight is really cool. You'll be able to walk up to it. I do believe the Naval Air Museum in Pensacola has one. So if you ever get a chance to go over there, I highly advise you doing so. So guys, that's all I have for tonight for this program. I really do appreciate you coming on and watching. To everybody who has joined the channel, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. It means a lot to me that you guys like the content I put out and that you enjoy watching it. Again, if you can, join my Patreon page. If you're a member of Patreon for another channel, you can follow me. And if you go over to Patreon, you'll be able to see one of the videos I just put out about the Bay of Pigs, about our family, specifically my father's side of the family, surviving the Bay of Pigs, and going through. And my father knows a lot about it, about the subject. Knows a lot of people that fought in it, family members and such. And also a little history on how our family escaped during that time period from the clutches of socialism that happened. It's one of those things that I wish it was talked about more, and I guess the media likes to portray it as a small thing. So, but guys, I don't know. I think there's something going on with the chat. Not a lot of you guys are on there. I think there's a problem with my chat bot here on my side. If you can, leave your comments about tonight's broadcast on there. YouTube is not sending me any information. I guess that update didn't really work too well. But I really do appreciate y'all joining for the video tonight. It was a lot of fun. Next week, I don't know what we'll talk about. Maybe we'll talk about some RC planes. I think we need to talk about RC planes because I'm working on my Grumman Hellcat back here. You can see the nose sticking out. And I want to talk about one thing. So I was watching, I'm not going to name the channel, but there is a channel out there. You know, I do my best to do as much history when I talk about a subject, especially when it comes to aviation history. I do my research using books. Very little times will I go onto Wikipedia to look up information or other sources, because you know, transferring it from a book onto the computer, it doesn't really go that well. Sometimes there's words misspelling, and there's misinformation being transferred onto You know, some people will rewrite history just to transfer from the book to the computer. You can do that. It happens all the time. We all know about it. So I'm watching this video, and I'm watching it, and I'm like, my mouth is jaw dropping. I'm like, wait a second, this guy's talking about. So I did a video on the Boeing 377. You guys can look at it, look it up on my channel. And I'm listening to this guy. Obviously it's AI. A lot of guys are now still using AI as their voice on the on YouTube. It kind of irks me a little bit. If you have a really bad voice, I understand. Hey, not everybody can talk. Maybe you just don't have that conversation. You're not able to do videos. AI is for you. I understand it. I get it. But if you're gonna do a video about aviation, you need to invest in looking up the research. And the guy who did it, he put out a lot of mishistory about the plane itself. You can look it up yourself. I'm not going to talk about it. I'm not going to give him press time. I don't know who he is. But I think a lot of people, when you put out information about a plane specifically, look it all up. The good and the bad and the ugly. And the good. There's a lot of good out there. And I don't know, maybe it was a little Boeing bashing. I don't know what was going on here. But I left my comments in there, and I know they'll read it. I think more of it was more of like a video put together for clickbait, really. And I really don't like doing that. So, but guys, all 11 of you that viewed tonight's broadcast, I really appreciate you watching. I don't know what's going on with the chat. Something's wrong with it. I don't see anybody chatting. So, but we'll try and catch you guys next time. And I hope to see you guys on the next video. Again, next week we'll talk about some model airplane stuff. I got some stuff working on in the broadcast, and maybe I'm going to show you guys how to do templates. And we'll just talk about airplanes and just have a chat. So join me next time, all right, guys? Have a good weekend. For those of you that went back to school, enjoy your week back at school, and I'll enjoy my vacation. Have a good one, guys. Thanks for joining in. See you next week. Model Man Frank out. Have a good one.